What's that?
Oh.
We're going to end our Black History Month with a Goofy movie.
It's Goofy. Give me a big smile.
Stop goofing around.
In an outrageous full-length animated feature.
It holds a special position for nerds, but not just any old nerds, Black nerds. And
yes.
I went into this trying to figure out why. Why do Black nerds respond so strongly to a Goofy movie, but white people, I found, feel nothing? Like it came and it went. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about the film, but only Black nerds get excited and start yucking and singing and all that stuff at just the mention of the title.
Yo, Stacy! Talk to me, baby!
This movie, while it's not necessarily a Black movie with Black people in it made by Black people, it actually does speak to Black culture more than just about any other Disney movie I can think of. Some people make an argument for Lion King, but Lion King, I think it speaks to Black people as like a people, but this movie's all about Black American culture. Yes. And it's so immediately obvious from Max's clothes.
It's a piece of cake.
This is, at least for me, outside of like Baby's Kid or something like that, this was the first movie I saw where the guy like dressed like I did. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he listened to music like I did. But this movie even takes it a step further by making quite a lot of commentary on how other people see Max versus how Max himself is. Just to back up a bit here, Max, I guess his name is Goof. Max Goof, because I think Goofy's name is Goofy Goof. So,
Goofy Goof, yeah.
So I think Max Goof is a high schooler who is, well, he just feels like a damn loser, okay?
Yeah.
And it's the last day of school, and he just cannot wait until the day after today.
I wish that this was the day after today.
She looks right through me, and who could blame her?
He needs a new me. And that's what he's trying to do. He's like, I'm going to interrupt the school assembly to put on this great big show for my favorite artist ever, Powerline.
Powerline.
He interrupts the school assembly. The principal catches him, and the principal says something I think is really interesting, and it's something a school principal would only say
to black people.
He said, "Your son, dressed like a gang member."
Dressed like a gang member?
Gang member?
Your son caused the entire student body to break into a riotous frenzy.
Riot?
Started an outrage. And you're like, a gang member? And even Goofy's like, a gang member?
Couldn't be mine.
If I were you, Mr. Goof, I'd seriously reevaluate the way you're raising your child before he ends up in the electric chair.
And this is where Goofy, Max's father, realizes that even though he knows his son is good, that's not how the rest of the world sees Max. They see Max as a threat. They see Max as a troublemaker and someone who would potentially one day end up in the electric chair.
Electric chair?
Yeah. And so, in an effort to rescue his son and teach his son some good old-fashioned lessons, just like his dad taught him, he decides to take Max on a road trip across the country to visit Lake Destiny, Idaho.
Lake Destiny, Idaho!
Lake Hooteroo.
But the things that make this a Black film are the fears that Max, just because of the clothes he wears and the music he listens to, could one day grow up to be a gang member. Well, that's almost like a dog whistle to every Black adult ever. Yeah. And I think a lot of Black people heard that and they understood Max's plight more so than a lot of other Disney characters.
This was directed by Kevin Lima. He directed Tarzan, and he was actually offered Tarzan before this, but he wanted to do this before Tarzan. I'm thinking, like, did these people actually know what they were doing when they made this?
I don't think they did, but I also don't think it matters.
No, it doesn't matter.
because they struck a key, whether or not they meant to strike it or not, that rang very true for a lot of non-white individuals.
Now, we're not saying, or I'm not saying, that white folks don't like this film. It's just beloved and kept close to our hearts more than white folks. And
you have to say that kind of stuff because it's the internet. Obviously, not every single white person on the planet doesn't know this film or doesn't like the film or something like that.
Yeah.
But this film does hold a special part in black people's hearts, especially black nerd millennials.
Let's talk about that assembly, man, because Stacy is up there, you know, by the way, Stacy, talk to me, baby. She's talking, they're talking about, you know, everyone come over to watch the Powerline show and everything. And then when Principal Mazer comes out there, everybody's quiet.
It's completely quiet.
Thank you very much. And now, without further ado, Principal Mazer.
They got him off the stage and he was just smooth because he's trying to talk to Roxanne. And he's up there, you know, got the power line, get up and everything. And soon, man, he hit that dang moonwalk. I was like, oh, through the fog and a little smoke edge, you know? Just like you said that, you know, when Goofy finds out about this, he gets panicked that he feels like, oh, his son's gonna end up in an electric chair. I gotta take him on this road trip across country, but it's gonna be good for Max to have this outing with his father.
Right. What Goofy thinks is fun is not the same thing that what Max thinks is fun.
No, like going to Lester's Possum Park.
Right.
Who's your favorite possum?
Now let's talk about the differences between the parenting skills of Goofy and Goofy's neighbor Pete. Pete is very aggressive and to PJ. PJ, you know, his son Max's best friend. He feels that Goofy doesn't have a strong enough hold on Max.
If you keep them under your thumb, they'll never end up in the gutter.
Pete uses a much firmer hand on his son PJ than Goofy uses with Max. This movie works really good for both Black History Month, but I also think this would be a really good Father's Day movie as well. Because this movie is all about the relationship between a father and their son. We obviously Max and Goofy is the relationship we get, you know, front and center, but also we get PJ and Pete, but we even get Roxanne and Roxanne's father, where Roxanne's father is very domineering and he's like trying to be as intimidating as possible,
but soft to her.
Right, but gentle with Roxanne, you know.
Daddy, Max is a friend from school. Go on, good daddy. Hey, Max.
When Goofy tells Max that we're gonna go on this journey so we can get old bonding together, he's like, I gotta go tell and talk to Roxanne because I made a date.
Right. The conflict is that he told Roxanne that the reason why he can't make it for their date is because he's gonna be on stage with Powerline on the final number. And Roxanne's like, wow, really? And she tells everyone, right? And which obviously this is not true. And now Max is like, I lied. And how am I going to get out of this? And again, I want to say that this movie is actually really good. Now, it holds a much more nostalgic point of view or nostalgic feelings for me as a millennial, and as I'm sure it does for you. But even if you're not a millennial, I think this movie is just like a genuinely good movie. The animation is, I think, fantastic, top notch. That opening scene with the dream sequence where we learn Max's most innermost thoughts, his innermost desires, which I think, again, such a great way to cut straight to the chase with that. He desires Roxanne, but he fears becoming his father. But the irony of that is we learn at the end of the movie, Roxanne literally did not pay any attention to Max, didn't even know he existed really, and didn't speak to him until he accidentally yucked in front of Roxanne. And Roxanne thought that shit was hot. Like, she was like, I'm into that now. That's what I want.
I'm into that yuckness. I was really just being nice to you because you fell down the daggone bleachers. To pick up, you pick up, and you start laughing at it.
You know?
wait. When you yuck, I was like, feel on this butt.
But that's the irony of it, is that he fears becoming his father, and yet everything that his father teaches him later on becomes a thing that actually bonds him with Roxanne.
I already liked you, Max. From the very first time I heard you laugh. Yuck.
Settle down, girl. Go easy, girl.
At the end of the film, when Max actually does get on stage with Powerline, and Goofy is on stage too, and Goofy doesn't know what to do, Max is like, hey, do the perfect cast. And we know from earlier in the film that the perfect cast is this ridiculous way of throwing out your line when you're going fishing.
To catch a fish, yeah.
You're right, to catch a fish when you're going fishing. But Goofy does it as a dance. And just because a black person did it, it becomes a trend. The movie cuts back and forth between the dance with Goofy and Max doing the dance with Powerline, and then it cuts to all the kids watching and they're copying, you know? Is that not like modern day TikTok? Like almost all the TikTok dances and all the TikTok trends come from people of color, and just because they did it, it becomes the trend. Again, I don't know. I'm feeling confident this was not on purpose, these kind of things, but they really do like scratch an itch in the back of your mind when you're watching the film.
When we coming up with some type of dance, coming up with some type of music, it passes through every other medium and every other race, you know, like a wave, you know what I'm saying?
Comes from queer black people first, and then it goes to straight black people, and then it goes to everyone else. Right? And that's usually the trajectory of almost every trend. And this movie reflects that, which I think is really funny and really interesting, and helps keep this movie relevant, even though it's like 25 years old. Like I think when I watch this, my memories of watching this in the theater, which I did watch it in the theater, are like hazy because I was little. you know what I'm saying? Right. So this movie is old, but it's still, its popularity has only grown, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, I think Disney was firing on some cylinders that year, because
there's a time, it's even hard to believe to even think about this right now, but there's a time when Disney was in a really bad shape, really, really bad. But then they started kicking out some more animated films. I believe the Renaissance started with Little Mermaid, and then went to Beauty and the Beast,
Aladdin,
and of course absolutely exploded with Lion King and Toy Story and all that stuff. And so this fits in right at that time, in that timeline. That's usually what white nerds say about this film, that it's just one of Disney's movies that they put out during their Disney Renaissance. But for black nerds, we seem to pick this one out in particular. And I think there's another thing about this film that really pushed it over the edge for black nerds. And
what is it?
It's Powerline. Powerline himself.
Damn right.
It's very obvious. I mean, it couldn't be more obvious unless they just named the character Bobby Brown. That Powerline is supposed to be Bobby Brown.
It's Bobby Brown.
Now, they actually cast Bobby Brown to be Powerline in this film. Yeah. But he had to drop out because he went to rehab when they were supposed to be recording this. And so they...
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Don't laugh at rehab.
I'm sorry.
Bobby Brown today seems like an awful choice for a kid's movie, but back then he really was like the biggest guy in the world, you know? They didn't go to some white person who was trending at the time. They went to Tein Campbell. Another reason why this movie feels like a deep cut within like black culture. I don't think I've ever heard a white person even say the name Tein Campbell before.
Exactly.
So it's such an interesting choice. And apparently when Tein Campbell came on, he used his connections in order to get the music to sound like him, even though he's still doing a Bobby Brown impersonation. And so he used a guy named David Z, and David Z used to mix for Prince. He actually mixed the Purple Rain album. And so, so think about who's making this music. And the music is genuinely good, and it's catchy. The lyrics are silly, but the music itself is really, really good. When Max interrupted the assembly, he became the coolest person at his school. And he understood in a way that I can't think of another Disney movie that does this. He understood that for a lot of black people, coolness and respect are like a currency. You know what I mean? It's like something that you need. you know?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really interesting. And they did that in a respectful way.
Devin, I love it when you take notes, man, because when you take notes on films, it's like you pulling out all the stocks. You going into it in deep dive. And yes, I agree with you on all of those points, man.
So what's also interesting is after Max and PJ get caught after interrupting the assembly, they have to go speak to Principal Mazer. And before they go speak to Principal Mazer, they've got to wait like in the reception area. And both PJ and Max are horrified. They're like, yo, my parents are going to destroy me. Okay, they're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
Max, PJ is like, yo, my dad's gonna squash me like a bug. But Bobby, played by Pauly Shore, who is physically lighter and he's got lighter hair, he doesn't seem to care.
Max, look, it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
He doesn't, he's like, hey, you know, it is what it is. May I get in trouble? May I won't, you know, whatever. And again, that is another interesting detail where the black people are really scared because there are sometimes very serious consequences to even getting in small trouble as a black person. But for white people, they're like, you know, it'll be all right.
Hey, Mazer, what's up, bro?
And so it's like a fear they don't have. And when I was a kid, that used to irk me. I'm like, why isn't Bobby afraid of his parents? Maybe does he not have parents or what is it? But I think it's just he doesn't have that same cultural experience.
Yeah, especially for PJ's case. PJ's case sounds like, you know, a black father that just, he don't play.
PJ!
Yes, sir. Coming, sir. Yes, sir.
And it makes you kind of want to almost debate. And the movie seems to be trying to debate you about which way of parenting is better. Because like you said, Pete is much more domineering over his son, PJ. And, you know, sometimes that's kind of what you have to do to make sure your non-white child will be okay in the world, to make sure they understand that there is kind of a tightrope that you have to walk. Where Goofy is like, well, I want my son to still be Max. You know what I mean? I don't want to beat his personality out of him. And that, I bet a lot of black parents feel that way. That conflict of, should you push too hard because you know it's for your kid's benefit, or should you allow your kid to actually make mistakes? Because the world won't always let black people make mistakes.
When Max changed the direction and changed, because Goofy made him the navigator, when Max changed the direction on where you're going to be going from the lake to LA to go to the Powerline concert, he was talking to PJ when they met back up later at that motel about it, and Pete heard it. Okay, and Pete was like, he went to Goofy, he was like, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but your kid's dupey and stuff like that. And Goofy's like, no, I trust my kid. I trust my kid.
But you can see that doubt, you know.
Yeah, you can see the doubt, but he was like, Max may not be perfect, but, you know, he's a good kid. And then Pete said one thing that every black parent will say, nah, but he respects me.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
I was like, oh.
Maybe Max isn't all the things that you think a son should be, but he loves me.
Hey, my son respects me.
and the animator did a great job of expressing Pete's face of how pissed off he's like, he respects me.
Right.
You know, I was like, oh, okay, Pete. He respects you, but is PJ really PJ around you? No, PJ can't be himself.
Right.
You know?
Right. And actually, when we see PJ by himself, you know, he's like dancing and having a good time. But when he's around his father, he's like, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, you know. So he's really not himself. Like I said earlier, what makes the movie really fascinating is I don't think any of this was on purpose. I don't think Disney sought out to make the blackest Disney movie of all time. I think sometimes this is just one of those things that happens because of what the story was and how they characterized Max and how they wanted Max to be cool. And the only way they knew how to do that was to dip into black culture and take our clothes and put them on this, on this character who's like, I guess he's a dog, but a lot of people see as, a black person. They dressed him up like this because that's what a lot of people know as what cool is. Blackness is kind of a shortcut to say cool, and they use a lot of this shorthand around Max, which feels like they coded Max as black. We talked about this a couple episodes ago about death of the author, right? So the author, I don't think this was the author's intention. I don't think it was, but does it matter? And I don't think it matters. I think that's kind of the power of film, is that you can accidentally say something incredibly profound, or you could accidentally say something really stupid. But in this film, we got something really profound.
And I think this film does such a good job with so many of the story beats and everything like that, that when its sequel came out, everyone forgot about it. People don't even know about that daggone sequel.
I mean, it's trash. I've seen it. It's complete. You can tell the budget went down a lot, like a lot. Like if you watch this movie and then you watch the sequel, they don't even feel like they're made by the same company. Like everything is just like two people talking like this, and that's it. Goofy Movie 2. Uninteresting. Not here to talk about a Goofy Movie 2. In my mind, it's kind of like Starship Troopers 2. It just doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist at all.
There's only one Starship Troopers movie, and there's only one a Goofy movie.
I feel very strongly about this film. I love it. You love this film. But more importantly, how do you feel about this film? Get in the comments and let us know how you really like a Goofy movie.
A Goofy movie.
Morning, son. Dad.
It's hard to be cool when your dad is goofy.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Our subscriber count is going up. Did you see our subscriber count lately, man?
Yeah, I did. It's going up. Yeah.
I'm like, yo, thank you. You guys are so great to us, man. But if you're new to seeing our faces and you want to get to know us more, get down there and hit that subscribe button. All right?
It's right there.
It's right there.
So, now they're not going to click it. God damn it.
And if you did like this video, please do us a favor. Hit that thumbs up. All right? Or you can hit that thumbs down. Whichever you choose. It is your opinion. But just remember one thing. It is mostly wrong. We will see you guys in another movie review. All right? Take care.